Hello everyone and welcome back to another very exciting chess game, this time by Bobby Fischer again. So in this chess game, Fischer had the white pieces and his opponent was Robert Steinmeyer. He was an American chess master. Unfortunately, I couldn't find much information about Mr. Steinmeyer. So he had the black pieces and he was, again, an American chess master who competed in some United States chess championships. So this was one of them that he competed. And in fact, in 1963, Bobby Fischer has won this United States chess championship with a very dominating score. He played 11 games, and guess how many games did Bobby Fischer win? 11. That was 11 game winning streak by Bobby Fischer. He won all 11 of them. Absolutely incredible. So this is one of his chess games. He was already in 5-game winning streak. So this is from the round 6 against Mr. Steinmeyer. So let's see what happened. I think Bobby Fischer was for about 20 years old at this time. He was young and he was extremely strong. So let's see what happened. E4, C6, and we have the Caro-Kann defense. Knight to C3, D takes on E4, knight takes on E4, bishop to F5, and this is the classical variation of the Caro-Kann defense. Bishop to G6, knight to F3, knight to F6, and then H4 by Bobby Fischer, so he can also push the pawn to H5, giving room to the bishop. And pushing the pawn to H5 is a common move, and it is also very tempting, but Fischer preferred bishop to D3 and threatening to take the bishop and damaging the pawn structure. So exchanging and then E6, opening the bishop, bishop to D2, developing the bishop. So maybe Bobby Fischer is actually showing his intentions with planning to castle from the queen side. That is a possibility. Not castling but developing the bishop, and maybe planning to castle from the queen side is an option for white. So in here, black decided to develop his queenside knight. Knight from B to D7, and simply Bobby Fischer castled from the queenside as we expected. And then queen to C7 by Robert Steinmeyer. And then C4. And black also castled from the queenside. So with playing queen to C7, black was also planning to castle from the queenside, and he also showed his intentions with playing that move. And then bishop to C3, checking the king, and then Fischer moved his king to B1. So this is not yet losing for black. This is an equal position. But in here, black played a committal move, knight to C5, and this was actually not a very good move. Now, the pawn is pinned, of course. You can take the knight because then rook takes queen. But after queen to C2, black has a problem. Instead of knight to C5, actually passive looking queen to C7, a positional move, should have been considered, and this would have been better for black. So this was more positional, more calm, and much more slow, but it is also safer for black. So we have king to B1 and then knight to C5, attacking the queen, and the pawn is pinned, so queen to C2 and black has a problem. Now white is actually threatening to capture the knight, and there is also one more threat for white. So we can say that white has a tempo. Black played knight from C to E4, and actually white has a very strong move. Can you see that? Okay, so knight to E5, and this looks very unpleasant. So you can see that the queen is also looking almost trapped. Where is the queen going? And also targeting on F7, and defending this is not so easy. Steinmeyer played knight takes on F2, and this was actually a blunder, but nothing works for black. So for example, if knight to D7 and defending the pawn with the queen, then we simply capture the knight. It is that simple. So knight to e5 and targeting the pawn. And what happens if knight takes bishop? Then we capture the knight. And if, let's say, moving the knight, and as you can see, attacking on f7, and you can't defend with the rook. So if moving the knight, then can you see what white can play here? So the queen is defending, but again, the queen doesn't have much room. So we can also say that with not pushing the h-pawn to h5, Bobby Fischer is almost trapping the queen with pushing the pawn to h4. So black actually fell for it. Maybe this was some sort of trap by Bobby Fischer. So knight to h5, of course, and where is the queen going? This is almost trapping the queen. So after defending the queen, we can exchange the queens and then land on f7 and forking the rooks, and white is winning the exchange. And actually, this is all over because white is also a pawn up. This is unplayable for black. So okay, knight from c to e5 and e4, and then knight to e5. And after this move, well, you can see that this is a very difficult position for black. So in this difficult position, Mr. Robert Steinmeyer captured on f2, and this is losing on the spot. The other variations is also losing, but this is losing in a horrible way. Can you see the move? It should be very easy. Okay, trapping the knight. I mean, knight is pinned. It's all over. And you can't move the knight because then rook takes queen. But you might also ask, I mean, after this move, Robert Steinmeyer resigned. But you might ask what happens if black plays the obvious move. Queen takes on g3. Then rook takes on f2. And at the same time, white is threatening to play knight takes on f7. And that is forking the rooks. But actually there is another threat in this position. If black plays bishop to d6, the obvious move, can you see what white can play here? Well, actually the queen is getting trapped, but I'm going to ask you a simple question. I mean, maybe you have seen this chess game before, but if you haven't seen this chess game, can you see the best move for white? So white is playing a rook lift, okay? But after that rook lift, white is basically trapping the queen. But which rook to lift? If I give you a few seconds, can you see why that rook lift is winning? Let me give you a few seconds while I enjoy my coffee. I mean, if you say rook to h3, well, actually this is not so good because you missed something very important. Because if rook to h3, then okay, this is, where is the queen going? The queen is trapped. But bishop takes on e5, and if rook takes queen, this is not very good because bishop takes on g3, and black is actually getting some compensation. Black is getting the rook, the knight, and also one extra pawn for the queen. So this is still winning for white, but it's not as crashing as it should be. So rook to h3 is not a very good move, because not because of that reason, because of this. Bishop takes knight, and you don't take the queen because bishop takes rook. But if you take the bishop, then black can play queen to g4, extricating himself. And now you can't win. You can't win the piece because black is going to move the knight away and then survive. Because if you take the knight, then rook to d1, disaster time. Because if you take the rook, that's getting checkmated. Obviously, this queen to g4 is such a sneaky move. And you have to block with the queen, of course. And then, well, rook takes queen. Should be winning. It should be winning enough for black. So, okay. This is why I think this is also an interesting chess problem. So after bishop to d6, not rook, the h rook to h3, but the f rook, you're going to use the f rook and rook to f3, and this is completely winning now. This is a different story, because if bishop takes knight, this is not about trapping the queen. If you take the queen, it is the same story. Bishop takes rook and black is getting some compensation. But you take the bishop, and this time after queen to g4, there is no shenanigans. There is no cheapo. Because we will take the knight, and as you can see, the rook is blocking the queen, and also there is rook on the on h1 and defending on d1, but the rook is blocking the queen anyway, so there is no rook to d1 cheapo. Okay, so you need to see these kinds of tactics. So this is why I didn't want to show this chess game very quickly. I also want to show some critical variations actually. So anyway, let's check out this chess game once again quickly. So this is the position that Mr. Steinmeyer decided to resign. So knight to e5, I mean, it looks very annoying, and actually there is no good defense in this position. You can't move the knight and clear the path for the queen for the defense. You can't also defend with the rook because we can take. And if, again, because if you move this knight, we can take this knight. And if in the game, of course, we see this horrible move because it's a very difficult position. And Fischer played rook from d to f1 and he won at move 17. It's that easy. So okay, thank you so much for watching. I hope you find this video also interactive and fun, and I hope to see you next time with more interactive chess games. In these days I'm showing some Bobby Fischer chess games, so if you enjoy these games, stick around. And okay, did I miss any variations in this position? Okay, I mean, queen takes knight doesn't work because of this. Okay. Anyway, I didn't miss anything, I guess, so you know why black resigned very well if you watch the video until the end. Stay safe, take care, and bye-bye.